Welcome, I'm David Hunt, President and CEO of PGIM. And I'm particularly delighted to be joined by Kazuo Momma. Mr. Momma is the executive economist of the Mizuho Group. Momma-san, welcome. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you very much for having me today.
So why don't we start with the economy? People ask me as I travel the world, is the kind of green shoots and growth and inflation that we're seeing here in Japan, what's your view on the sustainability of the growth here?
Well, I think we are on the verge of sea change, actually. We are clearly getting out of deflation. We are now becoming to a more inflationary environment. And as a matter of fact, the BOJ, Bank of Japan, scrapped negative interest rate and other unconventional ways of monetary accommodation that has been in place for many, many years. So I think the BOJ is now in the process of normalization of monetary policy, which actually tells you exactly what is happening in Japan right now. Wage hikes this year, this spring, actually a 33-year high. 5.2%, which is very high by Japanese standard for the last 20, 30 years. Business fixed investment plan for 2024 is actually about the highest number for the last 20 years. So I think every indicator of the economy is really pointing to a positive shift in Japan's economy right now.
On your point around wages, clearly that's a very kind of positive sign. Are you seeing that broadly across the economy, or is that still mostly in manufacturing? Is it coming into services?
Well, this year's wage hikes are generally broad-based, not just manufacturing, but also services industries. Even small and medium-sized companies, they are raising wages in a magnitude that has not been seen for many, many years. There is a growing sign that this could be sustainable going forward.
One of the comments that people have made around Japan has been the demographics, people getting older, the need for more productivity of the existing workforce. Are you starting to see signs of that productivity here?
Aging population is one of the most important challenges Japan is facing. And actually, this is the kind of challenges human beings have never dealt with in the modern history. So Japan is actually a pioneer on this front. We have to really looking for a best solution to us. But actually, there is an atmosphere in Japan that try to turn these challenges into opportunities in terms of creating more productivity and new business models. So we really have to conquer any side effect of the population aging and turn them into a more positive way.
So if we maybe turn from the economy then to the markets, this has been obviously a wonderful run for the Japanese stock market. And obviously now with real positive reads, we also have movement in the bond market as well. How much of the optimism now would you say is kind of currently priced in, or do you see a continued run?
This is not really immediate dramatic change that is only taking place in the recent years. This has been a longer time trend. The bottom of Nikkei, for example, was 2012, so more than 12 years ago. So already Nikkei is 5 times as high compared to a 2012 level. So I think this was a more insistent, constant process of the reform of capital markets, and also better focuses on the shareholder interest, a better corporate governance, so on and so forth. I think this trend is going to evolve in a more positive way going forward. So I think there is a compelling case you can make that you can be more optimistic about the future of Japan.
The Tokyo Stock Exchange has come out with a series of kind of governance reforms that they're driving. How much of that is actually taking place, and are you seeing that in the results of corporate earnings?
Actually, they are talking about 8% ROE, still relatively smaller than other countries, particularly US, global big companies, but still 8% ROE return on equity is actually a high level compared to the 10, 20 years ago in Japan. So I think the 8% is becoming a minimum goal goal for any corporate executives. Now they are looking for double-digit ROE or even more.
Maybe we turn to the bond market for a moment. So I'd be interested in your commentary on the big pivot, obviously, that the Bank of Japan has just made, and then your outlook for the rest of this year.
BOJ at this moment is very cautious because we had actually got through 3 decades of deflation or low inflation environment. Still, people cannot really getting over completely the deflation era mindset. So I think the BOJ try to strike a good balance between the keeping interest rate low and at the same time not keeping too low. This kind of very delicate balance is something BOJ is looking for. But in my view, the BOJ will raise interest rate this year maybe once or twice, not much more than that. So which means that at the end of this year, the policy rate will be around 25 basis points or 50 basis points at most, which means that at the end of this year, real interest rate will be still deep in negative territory. So BOJ is trying to keep this accommodative policy to actually establish more securely the 2% inflation trend and a more broad positive atmosphere in the economy.
And so if your projections for the BOJ play out and yet the Fed remains kind of higher for longer, does that mean that we have further yen weakening?
Well, the market are already pricing a lot of the weakness of the yen already. And also there is a good chance for the government to intervene in the foreign exchange market if the yen could weaken further in a dramatic way. And also BOJ is considering balance sheet policy, which is the reduction of GDP purchases, which is known as QT in the United States or elsewhere in the world. That kind of quantitative tightening could take place even before this summer.
So maybe last question, Momma-san. All of this is happening in a broader context of what's happening in Asia, the relationship between Japan and the United States. And how do you see the overall context and geopolitical risks playing out as it relates to investment and sentiment in Japan?
Well, geopolitical risk and fragmentation of the global economy is not a good thing in itself. But actually, in some sense, this is contributing to Japan's economy in a positive way. For example, many Japanese companies are now actually deciding their destination of investment from outside Japan to inside Japan. Many companies are now trying to invest in Japan. Not just private sector, but also the government is strongly committed to inviting foreign companies to invest in Japan. Case in point is semiconductor industry. Actually, semiconductor industry of Taiwan, TSMC, has already established a big factory in Kyushu, southern area of Japan. And actually, the wages around that area are rising 20-30% a year. So that's kind of the changes, partly facilitated by the investment flow coming from abroad. I think that this trend is going to continue.
Momma-san, thank you so much for your comments. It's been wonderful to be with you today. Thank you so much for joining us. I think we've covered an awful lot of ground.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.